The federal government has sued debt collector United Holdings Group for violating the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And if you are dealing with UHG or any of its affiliated companies, you might be the victim of false or illegal debt collection. Here's what you need to know. My name is Michael Wasylik. I'm one of the lawyers at Ricardo and Wasylik here in Florida. And together with my partner, Jason Ricardo, I help people just like you overcome debt collection with dignity. Today, I'm going to tell you about the lawsuit against United Holdings Group, its affiliate companies, why the federal government filed this lawsuit against them, and what you need to know if you are dealing with United Holdings Group or any of its affiliate companies. So go down to the comment section below. If you're dealing with UHG, tell us a couple things. Number one, tell us what state you're in. Number two, how are you being contacted by UHG? Are they sending you letters or phone calls? Are they sending people to work? Are they calling you and threatening you with jail? Are they suing you, or are they just showing up in your credit report? Tell us that in the comments below. Make sure to mention which state you're in and how big the debt is that they're trying to collect from you. So let's go to the lawsuit. This lawsuit was filed by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is the federal agency responsible for enforcing, among other things, violations of federal debt collection law and making sure that debt collectors obey that law. This lawsuit is part of that enforcement authority that the CFPB has under federal law. So the CFPB has filed this lawsuit in district court up in New York, which is where the debt collectors are based. And the CFPB has outlined a number of shocking ways in which United Holdings Group and its affiliated companies have broken federal law regarding debt collection. The reason this lawsuit is important right now is because UHG is a debt collector that acts like a junk debt buyer, which means that they buy thousands of accounts for pennies on the dollar, and they hope to squeeze nickels, dimes, and even quarters out of the people they believe owe money on those accounts. And one of the ways they do that right now is to file lawsuits across the country. And what we've seen in Florida is that there's an uptick in the number of lawsuits filed by UHG and its affiliate companies. And as we get into the lawsuit, we're going to find out there's a reason that they're doing that now where they didn't used to before. What that means is that more people are going to be falling within the clutches of UHG, and more people are going to be involuntarily dealing with UHG and some of the abusive practices that the CFPB is spelling out in this particular complaint. So let's dig into the actual allegations of what's before the court. Now, we're looking at the amended complaint, which is simply an updated version of the allegations because the initial lawsuit, when it was filed, there may have been some facts that they needed to update in order to make sure they were more accurate. So this is the amended complaint, which is what the CFPB, what the federal government is alleging these people have done wrong. Now, at this point, the allegations are unproven. It's important to remember that the defendants listed here do have their right to prove their innocence in court. They do have a right to contest these claims in court. They're trying to do so, but here are the allegations that the federal government has made. And so over here on this portion of the complaint, we have the list of the people that are involved. So we have a couple of individuals, Craig Manseth, Jacob Adamo, Darren Turco. I don't know if I'm saying those right, but those are the individuals that own or control the companies that are being sued. And those companies include United Debt Holding LLC, which they call UDH in the complaint, JTM Capital Management LLC, and then UHG LLC, and a bunch of similarly named companies that hold themselves out as United Holding Group. The introduction tells us who UDH and JTM and UHG are. They're debt collectors that have, and here's what I was talking about earlier, they've purchased defaulted consumer debt worth tens of millions of dollars. And then once they've bought all those accounts, what they do is they either hire debt collection companies or they sell them to debt collection companies. And so over the years, since at least 2014, according to the federal government, these three companies have either knowingly or recklessly placed and sold debts to debt collection agencies that used threats and misrepresentations to squeeze money out of consumers. I'm not going to go through each individual paragraph of this complaint because it's quite long, but this is the allegation that says that the three individuals named directed or controlled the companies in their alleged violations. Going next to UHG, this is the main bad guy. Because it is actually a company, it's a group of companies that holds itself out as one company called United Holding Group or United Holdings Group, and the UHG companies altogether kind of control and operate all the rest. And again, the primary purpose here of their business is collecting on debt. The majority of the revenue is from debt collection, and just like the other two corporate defendants, they bought portfolios of defaulted consumer debt worth millions of dollars for a small fraction of their outstanding balance. and then tried to collect on them. Now here in paragraph 97, the CFPB gets a little more specific. It says that they purchased millions of dollars of debt for pennies on the dollar. This is going to be a theme you hear throughout the video, which is that debt collectors, debt buyers like this, buy debt for pennies on the dollar, and then every dollar they squeeze out of you is profit. That's why it's so important. This is an enormously profitable industry, and it's more profitable for some companies when you break the law in the way that these companies are accused of having done. I'm going to skip over portions of the complaint that talk about the relationship between the various companies and how they controlled each other, because frankly, that's not really the important part that I want you to understand. But it is important to understand that UDH, UHG, and JTM are all related. And so if you're dealing with one of them, you're probably dealing with these same types of activities. Now we're getting into the meat of the complaint, where it talks about the violations that these companies committed together, violating the rights of people who had borrowed money or violating the rights of consumers. And some of these are pretty shocking, so let's dig into them. So there's two main claims in this false threats of lawsuits section here. Number one is they would call up consumers and they would give the false impression that a lawsuit was about to be filed, even though they had no intention of filing suit. And secondly, they would threaten that a process server was about to come to their home or their workplace to serve them with a lawsuit, even though no lawsuit had actually been filed. So here in paragraph 143A, we get this allegation that, listen, in order to get to a point where we're not going to sue you, we need to have some arrangement on file with you so that you're making some payments. In other words, they would lie about the lawsuit being filed or about to be filed and say that the only way to avoid filing was to make a payment right away. Here in paragraph 143B, you have this debt collector who's saying, I'm the one who's been assigned to this case, and we're notifying you that judgment is about to be filed against you in the state Supreme Court. And we have been retained concerning a breach of contract, and we handle mediation for a group of investing attorneys. Obviously, all that is designed to make it sound like a lawsuit has been filed or is about to be filed or is about to be served. And then paragraph 144 has the kicker where it says, none of the debt collectors were actually authorized to sue consumers. So they were lying about it the whole time. And then here in paragraph 146, it's clear they didn't have any actual plan. There was no imminent lawsuit. That was all a lie designed to scare people in order to cough up money. Next, these debt collectors affiliated with UHG would lie about the way their credit scores and credit histories would be affected if they did or did not pay the debt. The reason that was a lie is because UHG didn't actually ever report on their credit report. They were just lying to scare people in order to get them to make payments. And here, starting in paragraph 150, is the one that's really, really terrible. These debt collectors would falsely threaten to have people arrested, jailed, or facing criminal charges if they didn't pay their debt. Now, here in America, we don't have debtor's prison. Here in America, you can't be arrested or jailed or face criminal charges for merely failing to pay a debt. And here in paragraph 151 are examples of the complaints that consumers made against UHG and UDH. They had agents harassing, coming to people's workplaces, and making threats to take me to court, jail, talking to family, and now actually coming to my work. That was one complaint. Another complaint, now here's somebody who was on Social Security, so they couldn't actually collect from him, but he was so scared by that threat of jail that he went out and got a loan on his car title to avoid getting thrown in jail. And then here in paragraph 151C, and this is the one that just breaks my heart, where these debt collectors would call children of consumers, children in school, at school, saying, your mommy's going to be in jail, you can visit your mother in jail. Now, there is no legitimate purpose ever. There is no legal purpose ever for a debt collector to make that statement. A, it's false. B, exploiting kids, scaring your kids. What kind of scumbag does this? These are debt collectors hired by these three companies, JTM, UHD, and UHG. And they knew or should have known that these debt collectors that they'd hired were doing this. One consumer actually said the collector was threatening to send me to jail, prosecute me, or even going as far as bodily harm. They're flat out against the law. And of course, the person who's complaining about this, they're disabled and suffer from heart issues. So scaring somebody like that could actually cause them serious medical problems beyond just the emotional turmoil that they're causing. And then the last example here is where a collector was threatening to have police arrest the consumer, where they were having phone calls to their job, threatening and cursing at them. And it got so bad that that person was in danger of losing their job. The complaint goes on to say that the defendants knew about these violations, and despite knowing about these violations, they continued to use these debt collectors and these debt collecting tactics that were just completely illegal, abusive, and just basically subhuman. And then we get into the individual counts. Each count lists a specific part of the law and the specific defendants that the CFPB is claiming were violated by those individual defendants. We don't need to talk about each of these particular counts because what they're doing is they're taking the stories we've already heard, hooking them onto specific provisions in federal law that have been violated by these defendants. And so I wanted to move now also to the demand for relief. And the demand for relief tells us what the CFPB is asking the court to do. So first of all, they're asking to permanently enjoin defendants, meaning they want a court order stopping the defendants from violating federal law. They want additional injunctive relief as the court may deem to be just and proper. Again, that's just saying that we want that court order to be comprehensive and address every abuse that we're listing. The CFPB is asking for damages and other monetary relief in order to compensate the people who were injured, the consumers who were injured because of these FDCPA violations. They want the court to order disgorgement of the defendant's ill-gotten gains. In other words, every dollar these defendants illegally got by using false threats against consumers, every dollar of that should be returned to the person that they got them from, and award additional civil money penalties. So not just return the money, but also pay a punishment, pay a fine for committing these violations, award the cost of bringing the action, so basically pay the legal bills, and then award additional relief as the court may determine to be just and proper. So that's the complaint. This lawsuit is still pending in federal court in New York, and we don't know yet what the result's going to be. We don't know yet whether it finds the defendants guilty, whether there will be a settlement, whether there'll be some kind of consent order going forward where the defendants agree not to violate the law any further, whether there'll be any factual findings that the defendants have in fact violated the law. We don't know any of that yet, but we're going to keep monitoring this case. But there's a couple very important things that you need to know. Number one, if you are dealing with United Holding Group or any of the other companies that it deals with, know that they have a history of doing things that the federal government thinks have broken the law. Number two, if you've been sued by UHG or any of its affiliated companies, know that you need to be very alert for the possibility that they are violating the law even as they sue you. If you're getting communications from UHG, keep an eye on the things they might do, any false threats, any false promises that they're making to you. Know that they may be violating the law there as well. If you're in Florida and you've been sued by UHG, you probably want to get help right away. I'm going to put a link in the description below and in the pinned comment below, allowing you to contact us immediately so that you can get the help you need. Make sure to tell us that you're in Florida. Make sure to tell us that UHG is suing you. Make sure to give us the case number. And with that information, we will schedule an appointment to talk to you about your case and see if there's anything we can do to help you fight UHG. If you're dealing with any debt collector that is doing any of the things that are described in this complaint, they're making false threats of lawsuits, they're making false threats of process servers coming to your door and serving you with process either at home or at work, they're making false threats about sending you to jail, having you arrested, filing criminal charges against you, if they're calling your kids and telling them that mommy and daddy are deadbeats, if they're doing any of that stuff, any debt collector, anywhere, and you're in Florida, then we definitely want to talk to you as well. Follow the link in the description below. But if you're not dealing with UHG and you're wondering if your debt collector is violating the law, here's what you need to know. I'm actually going to put it in this video that I'm going to pop on screen right now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.